They never say it out loud, but you can tell who's playing to win and who's still playing pretend. Listen closely, and you'll notice. Most people reveal their whole strategy, if they have one, just by what they say. The average man leaks his weaknesses through his words. He brags about his intentions. He announces his boundaries. He advertises his morality like a politician selling hope. And yet, the intelligent man, he plays a different game entirely. He speaks less. But when he does, you listen, and more importantly, he never says the things that betray his power. You think intelligence is just IQ. No. Intelligence is the ability to navigate reality. It's psychological warfare. It's knowing how to get what you want, without being destroyed in the process. Most people lose before the game even begins. Why? Because they give away the truth with their mouth. You want to spot a fool? Listen for moral proclamations. I could never do that. That's just wrong. I'm not like them. Weak men hide behind virtue when they can't compete in strength. It's their armor, but it's made of glass. Do you think Napoleon spent time declaring how good of a person he was? No. He moved like a storm, justified by results. Caesar didn't ask permission. He crossed the Rubicon and dared Rome to stop him. That's what power does, and it doesn't explain itself. An intelligent person never says, I deserve better. Because intelligence understands, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you can negotiate, what you can take, what you can make others believe you're entitled to. That's why the world is full of good people who suffer and manipulators who rise. Fairness is a bedtime story you outgrow the moment you taste power. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And one of the easiest ways to avoid that, talking, over-explaining, moralizing. But the intelligent man, the dangerous man, he doesn't speak to feel better. He speaks to move pieces. If you pay attention, you'll realize that most of what's said in meetings, relationships, politics, it's just noise. It's camouflage. The real intelligence lies in silence, in the look that makes someone doubt their entire plan, in the move that says, I've already won, before anyone realizes the game started. When someone says, I don't play games, you already know they're losing, because everything is a game. Every interaction has a winner and a loser, even if it's subtle. And pretending you're above the rules is just another way of admitting you don't know how to play. Think about it. Why do you think Nietzsche said, he who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster? Because every intelligent man who rises eventually realizes there's no prize for staying pure. There's only the question, how much can you endure before the mask cracks? An intelligent person never says, I just want peace. Not because peace is bad, but because peace in this world is temporary, it's earned, protected, and only exists between people strong enough to hold it. The man who begs for peace usually has no sword, and the man with no sword is a slave waiting for his next master. You want to see intelligence in action? Look at Kissinger. Soft-spoken, deliberate, always 5 moves ahead. He didn't need to shout about ethics. He moved entire nations with a whisper. Because intelligence doesn't announce itself. It positions itself, quietly, strategically. Look at your own life. How many times have you tried to explain yourself to someone who didn't care? How often have you begged to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you? That's not intelligence. That's a trauma response disguised as virtue. The intelligent person never says, why don't they see my worth? Because if they don't see it, it's your fault, not theirs. People don't see what you are. They see what you show. And intelligent people know how to show power, even when they're still building it. There's a saying in the East, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. But there's a second part, rarely spoken. Unless the nail is sharp enough to cut the hammer, intelligence doesn't hide forever. It prepares, it sharpens. And when it moves, it strikes to end the war before it starts. Let me tell you a story. Miyamoto Musashi, perhaps the greatest swordsman who ever lived, once arrived hours early for a duel. Why? To study the terrain, to learn the light, to prepare for the moment his opponent arrived tired, late, and distracted. Musashi didn't talk about honor. He embodied the art of war. Intelligence isn't playing fair, it's playing smart. And you never play smart by telling your opponent how smart you are. Have you ever watched someone talk themselves into a trap? It's painful. They start with good intentions. They try to be transparent. They try to be nice. But every word is another rope around their own neck. An intelligent person knows this. That's why they never say, "I just want everyone to get along." Because they understand there is no everyone. Just interests. Just factions. Just temporary alliances waiting to collapse the moment your usefulness expires. In corporate boardrooms, they call it politics. But it's older than business. It's survival. It's wolves in suits shaking hands while sharpening knives under the table. You think the CEO got there because he was honest? No, he learned when to speak. And when silence was worth more than loyalty. Here's the truth. The intelligent man is often feared. Not because he's cruel, but because he's hard to read. He's unpredictable. He knows what not to say, and that alone is power. You ever wonder why some people seem untouchable? Like they could walk into a room and everyone tenses up. It's not their smile. It's not their resume. It's their restraint, their discipline, their refusal to be predictable. They don't tell you their next move. They let you guess. And that guessing, that's where the real control lies. The average man walks into a room and tells you everything he thinks. The intelligent man walks into a room, says very little, and lets the silence do the talking. People fill silence with fear, with assumptions, and that is where you live rent-free. In their imagination. Jung believed the greatest danger wasn't external. It was the unconscious parts of ourselves we refused to confront. And when you speak too much, when you confess your insecurities, when you try to be liked, you feed the part of yourself that stays small. Intelligence is not about knowing more. It's about controlling more, especially yourself. And if you don't think self-control is power, ask yourself this: why do tyrants fall? Why do geniuses crash? Because they mastered the world before mastering their own mind. The intelligent man knows victory outside is worthless if you're a slave inside. So no, he doesn't say, "I'm just being honest." Honesty without strategy is self-sabotage. Truth without timing is a weapon turned against you. Intelligent people speak like snipers. Precision. Purpose. One shot, one kill. You might not like this. You might prefer the version of intelligence that sits quietly in libraries and quotes philosophers. But I'll tell you this, the men who shaped history, who built empires, who bent the world to their will, they understood one thing better than all the rest. You don't have to say everything you think. You just have to make them believe you're thinking something they can't handle. And in that uncertainty lies absolute control. An intelligent person never says, "I'm not trying to compete with anyone," because deep down, they know that life is a competition, not always loud, not always public, but it's there, in every job interview, in every date, in every conversation where two people size each other up. There's always a silent scoreboard running in the background, and pretending there isn't B only proves that you're losing. The moment you say you're not playing the game, you've already admitted defeat. Because power is not given to those who deny the game exists. It's given to those who understand the rules, bend them, and then quietly rewrite them. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "The surest way to corrupt a youth is to teach him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently." What do you think that means? It means that conformity is comfort, and comfort is the death of intelligence. You cannot rise above the herd by repeating its slogans. The intelligent person never says, "Well, everyone else thinks so," because they understand. That's exactly why it's probably wrong. There's something pathetic about someone who finds safety in agreement. They think it's intelligence, but it's fear wearing a mask. They want to belong more than they want to win. They crave validation more than clarity, and that craving is what the world exploits. Every ad, every politician, every algorithm, they all prey on the man who refuses to think for himself. An intelligent person never says, "I just want to be liked," because being liked is a weak currency. You can be liked and forgotten. You can be liked and walked over. You can be liked and replaced. Intelligent people don't trade in likability. They trade in influence. And influence doesn't always feel good. It makes people uncomfortable. It challenges them. It creates polarity. Some will hate you. Some will obsess over you. But no one ignores you. Look at Julius Caesar. He liked. He was feared, respected, hated by the Senate, worshipped by the people, and ultimately stabbed in the back by his own allies. That's what happens when your presence threatens the existing order. But he knew the trade-off. He chose power over peace. And make no mistake, so does every intelligent person who rises. In this world, there are two types of minds: reactive and strategic. The reactive mind says, "That's not fair." The strategic mind says, "How do I position myself to never be in that situation again?" One cries, one calculates. That's why intelligent person never says, "They betrayed me and I did nothing wrong." Because to them, betrayal is not just about morality. It's about leverage, about optics, about failing to predict the move before it happened. If you're blindsided, it means you weren't watching. It means your intelligence wasn't situational. It was theoretical. There's a reason intelligence and paranoia sometimes look the same. It's because high awareness feels like suspicion to blind. Machiavelli said, "The promise given was a necessity of the pasting. The word broken is a necessity of the present." The intelligent mind understands loyalty is temporary. People are loyal to their needs, and when their needs change, so does their allegiance. The intelligent person never says, "I'd never do that," because they know given the right pressure, the right crisis, the right survival instinct, anyone can do anything. And if you think you're above it, you've already lost to someone who isn't. Miyamoto Musashi wrote in the Book of Five Rings that the warrior must see things as they are, not as he wants them to be. He trained not just to win, but to destroy. That's what intelligence is. It's not soft. It's not gentle. It's ruthless clarity. You see people for what they are, not what they pretend to be. You don't get emotional. You get efficient. The average man complains about manipulation. The intelligent man studies it, learns from it, learns how to resist it, and how to use it. Because if you think you'll rise in this world without ever influencing others, you're not moral, you're delusional. Influence is oxygen. And the first thing intelligent people master is how to control perception. That's why they never say, "I hate small talk." Because they understand small talk is the ritual before the kill. It's the testing ground, the bait, the way you map someone's insecurities without ever threatening them directly. The intelligent person doesn't reject small talk. He weaponizes it. They understand people don't reveal their soul when you ask big questions. They reveal it when they feel safe, when they think you're harmless. That's when the truth leaks out. In the way they talk about their boss, their ex, their ambitions, their fears. It's all there if you're listening. And that's another thing an intelligent person never says, "I already know that." Because intelligence doesn't cling to ego. It absorbs, it watches, it learns, especially from those it disagrees with. If someone less intelligent is winning, the smart man studies him, not because he respects him morally, but because he wants to understand the mechanism behind the victory. You don't have to like a tactic to study it. You don't have to agree with the player to learn the play. That's where most people fall. They confuse comfort with clarity. But intelligence isn't about feeling superior. It's about becoming unbreakable. You ever notice how quick people are to say, "I'd never sell out"? That's not a promise. That's insecurity speaking. That's someone trying to convince themselves they're still in control. Because the real question isn't whether you'd sell out. The real question is, at what price? Intelligent people ask that quietly, inwardly. They run the simulation. They identify their price, and then lower it or raise their standard. But they never lie to themselves about what they're capable of. You want to know how intelligence becomes power. It's not in IQ tests. It's not in philosophy books. It's in observation, pattern recognition, disciplined silence, and the refusal to announce your next move. You ever see someone post online, "I'm cutting off all the fake people in my life"? That's not strength. That's theater. An intelligent person doesn't announce the cut. He disappears. He exits clean, no drama, no warning, just absence, because he understands the most powerful moving is made in silence. And yet, here's the irony. People who talk like that think they're strong. They think they're sending a message, but all they're doing is telling the enemy what hurts them, what to watch, what to press. You think Caesar told the Senate what he planned to do? No, he played dumb. He smiled. He gave speeches. And then he crossed the Rubicon with an army behind him. Intelligence doesn't announce. It arrives. And that's exactly why intelligent people never say, "I just need closure." Because they know closure is a luxury. Sometimes the door stays open. Sometimes the apology never comes. Sometimes the other person moves on without ever explaining why. And begging for closure is giving the other person power they didn't earn. So what does the intelligent person do? They create their own ending. They build the narrative in their mind. Not out of delusion, but out of necessity, because peace isn't given, it's taken. Earned, crafted in solitude. You want to be intelligent, then start there, in silence, in discomfort, in the place where there are no easy answers. Because that's where strategy is born. Not when things are calm, but when things break. An intelligent person doesn't wait for the storm to pass. He becomes the storm. That's the difference. The average person reacts. The intelligent person prepares. He watches the tide, measures the wind, builds the ship in secret. And when the time is right, he sails straight into the chaos others are still trying to pray away. An intelligent person never says, "I deserve better." That sentence reeks of entitlement. Life doesn't care what you think you deserve. It only reflects what you negotiate, what you can take, what you can sustain. Deserve has nothing to do with it. You could be the most honest, hardworking, generous soul on earth, and still get walked over by someone half as qualified but twice as strategic. And if you're sitting around complaining that the world is unfared good, you're finally paying attention. But intelligence doesn't stop at noticing the unfairness. It adapts to it. It exploits it. You think Kissinger cried about fairness when he maneuvered world powers like chess pieces? No. He understood the ancient law. Those who control perception control outcomes. And those who control outcomes rewrite history. That's the game. So when someone says, "I deserve better," what they're really saying is, "I want the prize without the strategy." That's not intelligence. That's a fantasy. And the intelligent have no time for fantasies. They deal in leverage, not luck. That's why you'll never hear an intelligent person say, "I'm waiting for the right time," because they know the right time is a myth told to cowards by other cowards. The right time doesn't come. It's created, seized, forcibly extracted from chaos. If you're waiting, you're already behind. Napoleon didn't wait for the perfect moment. He saw sloppiness in the French system and seized power through boldness. Most people never rise because they're addicted to hesitation. They want the stars to align. They want certainty. But intelligence understands that certainty is the mask of mediocrity. The higher you climb, the blurrier the road becomes. Action creates clarity. You move, then adjust. You speak, then refine. The intelligent don't hesitate. They calculate fast and execute faster. Now look at this phrasing. That's just who I am. You'll never hear an intelligent person say that. Why? Because intelligence is fluid. It evolves. It doesn't get stuck in self-definitions. Saying, "That's just who I am," is the intellectual version of throwing your hands up. It's a confession of stagnation. Carl Jung warned about this. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." The intelligent person doesn't let their past dictate their identity. They hunt down the unconscious. They shine a light on it. They rewire the internal machinery while everyone else is stuck replaying the same emotional loops year after year. The smartest people you'll ever meet. They change, constantly, not because they're fake, but because they're alive. They outgrow their own opinions. They challenge their own habits. They bury outdated versions of themselves without ceremony. And that's what scares people, because most are so identified with their flaws that letting go of them would mean killing their sense of self. But the intelligent don't need comfort. They need results. And if becoming someone new gets them closer to that, they'll burn the old self to the ground without blinking. You'll also never hear them say, "It's not my fault." Because the moment you give up responsibility, you give up power. Blame is a shield for the weak. Intelligent people don't waste time pointing fingers. They look at the situation and ask, "What could I have seen? What could I have done?" Not because they enjoy guilt, but because they want control. Power is built on accountability. You own the outcome. Even if you didn't cause it, you learn the lesson, even if the pain wasn't your fault. Why? Because every time you take responsibility, you sharpen your awareness. You expand your control over future outcomes. And that's what intelligence is. It's foresight carved from past failure. Now let's talk about pain. The average person runs from it. The intelligent person sits with it, learns from it, stores it like a file in the mind. Pain is information. And the intelligent never say, "I just want to be happy," because they know happiness is not the point. The point is power, control, mastery. Happiness is the side effect, not the goal. If you chase happiness directly, you get dependency, a delusion. But if you chase clarity, you earn peace. And peace is better than happiness. It's not an emotion, it's a condition, it's silence in the brain. It's distance from chaos, and it's expensive. You have to bleed for it. That's why intelligent people never say, "That's just negative energy. I avoid that." No, they don't avoid it. They dissect it. They ask, "Why does this person feel like a threat? What's the game behind their mask? What weakness are they trying to hide with all this noise?" The intelligent aren't afraid of darkness. They study it, because the deeper you understand human nature, the safer you become. Most people think safety comes from avoiding threats. But intelligence understands that real safety comes from being the threat no one wants to awaken. That's not toxic. That's strategic, because power is the only true protection in a world where morality is optional but survival is not. Now let's look at this one. That's above my pay grade. You'll never hear a sharp mind say that, because the intelligent know. The moment you shrink away from responsibility, someone else will take it, and they'll be the one who rises. Do you think Caesar told himself, "This decision is for the Senate"? No, he walked into Rome and made the Senate irrelevant. Power rewards initiative. If you want to rise, act like you belong there before you're invited. Study the game 2 levels above yours. Understand the moves of those pulling strings. not just those dancing for attention. The intelligent don't wait for permission. They act like kings in exile, not beggars on the rise. And eventually reality starts to adjust around their frame. Another phrase you'll never heard, "I just want to be understood." It sounds innocent, but it's rooted in weakness. Why do you need to be understood? Why do you need validation from minds that aren't even operating on your level? That need to be seen, to be accepted, it's a vulnerability. And intelligent people treat vulnerability like a liability, not a virtue. You want to be free. Learn to be misunderstood. Learn to walk alone. Learn to be doubted, mocked and ignored, and still hold the line. Because influence doesn't come from being relatable. It comes from being undeniable. And that means standing on ideas most people aren't ready for. Yet, Nietzsche knew this. He wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe." That struggle, it doesn't end. It just changes shape. First it's your friends, then it's your boss, then it's the world. And at every stage, the price of intelligence is isolation. But that isolation, that exile, is where real thinking happens, where vision sharpens, where the next move takes form in the dark. And here's a brutal one. They should have known how I felt. Never. Never does an intelligent person say that. Because it's lazy. Expecting people to read your mind is emotional immaturity disguised as romanticism. Clarity is power, and intelligent people don't traffic in ambiguity. If something matters, they say it. If something hurts, they study it. But they never assume others will do the emotional work for them. Silence is a weapon, yes, but it's never a crutch. The intelligent know how to be silent with precision, not out of helplessness. And finally, this one, "I'm too old," or "it's too late for me." That statement is intellectual suicide, because time only punishes those who didn't use it. The intelligent know that the mind sharpens with age. If you feed it the right materials, if you keep evolving, if you stop chasing youth and start chasing wisdom. You know who believed that? Carl Jung. He said, "Life really begins at 40. Until then, you are just doing research." Intelligence matures. It deepens. It sees more clearly the further it gets from its naive beginnings. The only people who feel like it's too late are the ones who wasted the early years doing what everyone else told them to. But it's never too late to become strategic. Never too late to become dangerous. So ask yourself this: what have you been saying that an intelligent person never would? Because words aren't just sound. They're self-programming. They shape the way your mind interprets reality. And if you speak like a victim, you'll live like one. If you speak like a king, you'll begin to build the empire around your words. Every sentence you say is a vote for the person you're becoming. So stop casting votes for mediocrity. An intelligent person never says, "They should have supported me." Support is not a right. It's a currency. You earn it with results. You attract it with power. But you'll never be handed support just because you're a good person with a dream. The world doesn't reward intention. It rewards leverage. You think Caesar expected the Roman elite to cheer him on as he crossed the Rubicon? Of course not. He expected resistance. He expected betrayal. But he also knew one thing: power silences doubt. Victory rewrites opinion. The same people who whispered behind his back would kneel once he proved he could not be stopped. If you need support before you take action, you've already disqualified yourself. The intelligent act alone if they must. And once the results speak, the support comes. But by then, they don't need it anymore. You'll never hear an intelligent person say, "I wish it were easier." That phrase is a confession, a cry for relief from the weight of reality. But here's the truth. Wishing for ease is how you get weak. Wishing for strength is how you get powerful. And power is earned only through resistance. Musashi, the samurai philosopher, said it without flinching. You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. but none of them are easy. They are hard, brutal, often lonely. That's why most people never begin. The intelligent don't complain about the difficulty. They use it to separate themselves from the masses. Every obstacle is an opportunity to increase rarity, and rarity is value. If it were easy, everyone would be there. But the intelligent aren't trying to be everyone. They're trying to be irreplaceable. And that's why you'll never hear them say, "I'm doing my best." Because that's another way of saying, "Please don't expect more from me." It's a shield, a deflection, a way to avoid scrutiny. But intelligence thrives under scrutiny. It welcomes measurement. It understands that the world doesn't reward effort. It rewards execution. Your best doesn't matter if it doesn't produce results. You think corporate executives or military strategists sit around praising effort. No, they count outcomes. And if your best isn't enough, you adapt, you refine, you evolve, you get better. But you don't hide effort like it's a virtue. You don't hear Nietzsche saying, "I tried my best." He said, "Become who you are." A terrifying phrase, because it means you're responsible for excavating your full potential. Not just what's convenient or easy. It means you have to confront your limits and then destroy them. And the intelligent don't say, "It's not fair they're ahead of me," because they don't operate on comparison. They operate on precision. If someone's ahead, it means one thing: that person did something better, faster, or smarter. That's not injustice. That's feedback. And intelligent people treat feedback like fuel, not firewood. Every time you envy someone, you miss a lesson. Every time you focus on their advantage, you ignore their strategy. But the intelligent reverse that. They reverse engineer the success of others, not emotionally, logically, coldly. You want what they have. Deconstruct how they built it. It's not personal. It's structural. And that's why intelligence doesn't waste energy on bitterness. It turns envy into blueprint. Another thing you'll never hear them say, "That's just the way things are." That sentence is surrender. And intelligent people don't surrender to the status quo. They challenge it. They study its weak points. They figure out how to bend it, break it, or bypass it entirely. History wasn't written by those who accepted the rules. It was written by those who reinvented them. Kissinger didn't inherit global influence. He constructed it quietly, patiently, strategically. He understood that systems are not sacred. They are malleable. If you understand how they work, you can manipulate them. And if you don't, you'll just keep getting played by people who do. So no, intelligent people never accept the way things are as a permanent condition. They see it as a temporary arrangement until they have the leverage to alter it. They also never say, "I hope they notice me." That mindset is a trap, because the moment you depend on being noticed, you hand over your power. Attention is not something you wait for. It's something you engineer. You don't hope to be seen. You position yourself to be impossible to ignore. You sharpen your value. You refine your delivery. You master the environments you walk into so thoroughly that they adjust to your presence. That's how power moves. Jung called it individuation, the process of becoming a whole, undivided self. But that self doesn't beg to be noticed. It radiates, and those who aren't ready for it, they fall away. Another phrase you won't hear from the intelligenting: "I could have done that." No, because intelligence isn't hypothetical. It's proven. It's not what you could have done. It's what you did. And if you didn't act, it doesn't count. Simple. Speculating about your potential means nothing if it's not realized. That's the difference between dreamers and tacticians. One builds fantasies. The other builds track records. When Caesar returned from Gaul, drenched in victory, people didn't whisper. He could have been great. They knew. Because he had done it. Because he had acted. And that's the mark of intelligence. Movement, not musing. And intelligent people don't say, I didn't mean to offend you, because they know communication is a weapon. Every word has weight. Every sentence has direction, and if something lands with force, it was either planned or poorly executed. There is no innocence in influence. Either you control your impact, or someone else will define it for you. The intelligent choose their words like a warrior chooses his weapons, carefully, deliberately. And when something hits hard, they don't backpedal, they clarify, they double down, or they pivot strategically, but they never grovel. Because once you start apologizing for your power, you invite people to expect it, and the intelligent don't play defense, they recalibrate and keep moving. Here's one more egg. I'm not like other people. The intelligent don't say that, because true difference doesn't need to be declared. It's felt. It's known. If you have to say it, you're probably still trying to convince yourself. Intelligence understands the art of subtle dominance, quiet confidence, the kind of presence that doesn't shout. It reshapes the room with silence. You don't need to brand yourself as different if you are different. Your decisions will do the talking, your control of self, your clarity of direction. Besides, intelligent people don't waste time signaling superiority. They're too busy sharpening it. And lastly, you will never hear the intelligent say, "I wish I was someone else," because they know. That's a betrayal of self, a fantasy that poisons clarity. You're not here to mimic. You're here to refine, to sculpt the most dangerous, elegant, unshakable version of yourself. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But that privilege is only claimed by those who stop envying others long enough to study themselves. The weak worship idols. The intelligent build themselves into one. So stop asking the world to give you permission to change. Stop saying things that strip you of agency. Stop feeding your subconscious with soft phrases that excuse weakness, laziness, and wishful thinking. Your words are weapons, or they're chains. Choose. There's a phrase you'll never hear from an intelligent person: "I deserve better." Because intelligence doesn't rely on abstract entitlement. It doesn't beg the universe for justice. It understands the brutal formula: you don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate, what you earn, what you seize. Look around. Are the best people in power? Are the kindest, most moral, most selfless people running the world? Of course not. The thrones of history were never reserved for saints. They were taken by strategists. The people who understood that reality doesn't reward fairness. It rewards effectiveness. Caesar didn't become emperor by waiting to be recognized. He marched through blood. Kissinger didn't become the architect of US foreign policy by whining about the unfairness of geopolitics. He studied it, mastered it, manipulated it. Napoleon didn't say, "I deserve to be respected." He became so dominant that respect was forced into the room with him. You're not owed respect. You build leverage until respect becomes automatic. Entitlement is the last breath of the weak, and intelligent people are allergic to it. They don't waste time asking, "Why me?" They ask, "How do I win what I've got?" And they never, ever say, "I just want peace." Now, you might hear that and flinch. You've been taught that peace is the highest goal, but that's a half-truth. Yes, peace is beautiful, but it's also fragile. And most of the people who chase peace aren't looking for clarity. They're looking for escape. Peace becomes a drug when you use it to avoid conflict. Intelligent people know that life is not the absence of struggle. It's the mastering of it. Peace is not given. It's enforced by strength, by boundaries, by the capacity to confront. Musashi said it best, dog. You must understand that there is more than one path to peace, and some require the sword. He wasn't glorifying violence. He was telling the truth. That without the power to destroy, your peace is just permission waiting to be revoked. The intelligent don't chase comfort. They build fortresses, mental, emotional, strategic. So when someone says, I just want peace. The intelligent don't nod in sympathy. They ask her, what are you willing to endure for it? Because peace without power is just delay. And here's another phrase you'll never hear from Thing. I don't care what people think. It sounds strong. It sounds noble. But it's a lie. Everyone cares. The intelligent just understand when how to use it. Image is currency. Perception is leverage. The intelligent don't ignore reputation. They weaponize it. They know that what people think determines opportunities, alliances, invitations, and resistance. Jung said, the world will ask you who you are. And if you don't know, it will tell you. So the intelligent don't reject the game. They define the rules. They don't say, I don't care. They ask, whose opinion matters? And why? They filter feedback like gold through a sieve. Keep the signal. Discard the noise, but never pretend perception has no power. Saying, I don't care what people think, is a mask, a defense mechanism. The truly intelligent don't wear it, because they don't need to hide. They're too focused on shaping perception instead of reacting to it, and they'll never say, that's not my responsibility, because responsibility is power in disguise. Weak people run from it. Intelligent people hunt for it. Why? Because responsibility gives you control. It puts you at the center of the board. The moment you accept responsibility, even for things you didn't cause, you gain the ability to influence outcomes. Napoleon once said, if you want a thing done well, do it yourself. But that wasn't just about work ethic. It was about control, about owning the result. When you say, that's not my responsibility, you're saying, I have no power here. The intelligent never say that. They step in. They take command. Even if they delegate later, they own the situation first. Because if you don't own it, someone else does. And once you give up control, don't be surprised when the game plays you instead. Now here's a modern one-ig. That's just who I am. You've heard it. You've maybe said it. But the intelligent, they know that phrase is a death sentence for growth, because identity isn't static. It's adaptive. It's forged. Nietzsche's entire philosophy, become who you are, isn't a license to stay the same. It's a demand to evolve, to refine, to kill the weaker versions of yourself again and again until something immortal rises from the ashes. Saying, that's just who I am, is how average people justify bad habits. It's how they stay lazy, stay scared, stay small. The intelligent treat identity like a suit of armor. Designed, updated, replaced. You don't protect it, you sculpt it. Every day, every move. Until it fits the life you want, not the one you settled for. They also never say, I'll start tomorrow. Because they know that delay is a lie, a trick of the ego, a self-handicap dressed as strategy. Procrastination isn't laziness, it's a fear of exposure. If I don't start, I can't fail. If I don't try, I can't be judged. But the intelligent know that not starting is the only real failure. Because momentum is life, movement is clarity. You don't figure things out by thinking. You figure them out by doing. Caesar didn't say, let's plan for another year. He crossed the Rubicon. Napoleon didn't wait until every piece was perfect. He moved, adjusted, dominated. Waiting is the luxury of the mediocre. Starting is the religion of the intelligent. And here's the final phrase you'll never hear them say, that's impossible. Because they know the history of the world is the history of impossible things becoming real, through the minds of people who refuse to bow to limits. The intelligent don't label things impossible. They label them unmastered, unattempted, understood only by the lazy. The moment you believe something is impossible, you kill all pathways. You shut every door. But if you treat the impossible as unexplored territory, suddenly the game changes. Carl didn't think it was impossible to map the unconscious mind. He studied it, lived in it, drowned in it. Napoleon didn't think global conquest was impossible. He turned it into his obsession. Every man or woman who changed history had one trait in common. They didn't believe the script. They rewrote it. And so the intelligent never say, "That's impossible." They ask a better question. What needs to be true for this to work? That question changes everything. It turns the problem into a puzzle. And puzzles can be solved. So here you are. Maybe you've said some of these things before. Maybe you're seeing yourself in the wrong phrases, the soft language, the emotional crutches. That's fine, that's where it starts. But from here on out, you speak like someone who knows the truth. That words shape reality. That language is strategy. That every time you open your mouth, you are either building yourself or betraying yourself. Stop asking for support. Earn it. Stop saying it's hard. Harden yourself. Stop saying you did your best. Get better. Stop waiting to be noticed. Make your presence impossible to ignore. And stop dreaming about peace if you're not ready to fight for it. Because intelligence isn't measured by your IQ. It's measured by your speech. By what you tolerate. By what you refuse to say. Don't declare your intelligence. Demonstrate it. Through disciplined silence and the ruthless precision of your words. This world does not belong to the loud. It belongs to the sharp.